Slaying the National Security Beast by Preston James on veteranstoday.com. December 6, 2015. How can we slay the national security beast before it destroys our way of life and puts a boot in our face 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, forever? Although several VT directors may have top secret black, deep black, and or beyond black secret space war and even MJ status, the information in this article was not provided by any of them. Naturally, most Americans want their nation safe from outside attack and expect their elected representatives who are supposed to run their government to do that on their behalf. When these elected representatives not only fail in that responsibility but allow themselves to be secretly seduced by a foreign invader, the beast child of the City of London Khazarian Mafia, the world's biggest, most powerful crime syndicate, which they serve as their master, you know that all Americans face a serious challenge. For many years now, Khazarians have claimed to be a special race chosen by God, but act as if they were remnants or a reappearance of the old Neanderthal race and are Baal's chosen ones. These patterns can be traced back to ancient Babylonia. These Neanderthal-type social traits may appear due to a genetic preload for an apparent lack of civilized ways, a predisposition to engage in lying, murder, mass murder, piracy, narcotics trafficking, human sex trafficking, organ harvesting, and slavery, staged false flag terror and manipulated wars for profit, money-making scams, and thievery of a scale never attained by any other group in history, and always accompanied by classic two-faced behaviors, mixed with some of the greatest strike first and destroy any future possible threat type mass paranoia one will ever find in any group in history. Khazarians have eventually been booted from every nation due to their leaders' alleged Neanderthal social patterns, which appear inhuman and criminal everywhere they seize power, which never last due to their anti-social behaviors, which are eventually noticed and rejected by their new host, which they parasitize. Strangely enough, when confronted openly with full military force of near parity, top Khazarian leaders have a history of taking their money and assets and fleeing, leaving their own, whom they have used and conned, to take the heat and corrections. These Khazarian leaders tend to want to engage in sneak attacks, but have no courage to ever take on a serious enemy in the battlefield. This was true when the Parisians and the Russians invaded Khazaria in about 1012. After 500 years of stern warning to stop their institutional road warrior-type crimes against neighbors, such as thievery, identity theft, and murder of travelers and their families. The wealthy Khazarian leaders took their money and split from their people and have had a deadly blood feud against Russia and Persia ever since, culminating in the Bolshevik Revolution, which mass murdered up to 100 million Russians, and the now current mercenary war against Syria and Iran, using American, CIA, Israeli, Saudi, and Turkish hired and supplied mercenaries paid with revenues from stolen oil. These Khazarian leaders seized control over the City of London banking through very crafty means and did the same over American money creation and distribution, able to set up a phony, illegal, unconstitutional private central bank that issued only fake interest-bearing debt and called it money to fool most of the American people. The rest they either bought off, marginalized, or, if a serious threat, murdered them, like Abe Lincoln or John F. Kennedy, both while President of the United States and both trying to boot out these private Khazarian bankers. The current failing attempts of the Khazarians to retake the Ukraine and reinstitute their old homeland because Israel, their current extra-legal nest and home base, is a failing state that will certainly be balkanized for its apartheid against Palestine and for being deeply involved in the attack on America on 9/11/01. Quote, "Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government." Quotation from the section written into the Declaration of Independence by Founding Father Thomas Jefferson, which was signed on July 4, 1776, by the Continental Congress. Obviously, slaying this illegal, unconstitutional RICO crime syndicate American national security beast is going to be an exceedingly difficult task due to the incredible power and might the secret shadow government, SSG, has been able to attain through extreme criminal and anti-human means. And we now know for certain that the secret shadow government SSG is not only the privately run military-industrial complex, but is the operative arm and international enforcer of the select few who run Majestic. The secret shadow government SSG is the ultimate form of fascism, the merger of a unitary complex of large international corporations characterized by interlocked boards with the USG. This is different from the fascism of Nazi regime in Germany, in which the Nazi government retained ultimate control. In the new American SSG form, fascism is best described as super-fascism. The corporate side has acquired complete control over the USG and the ability to manipulate the USG to privatize all major defense and intel functions. And it has also been able to militarize the American police and convert them to function as an extension of the Israeli anti-terror police and the IDF. This extreme privatization has allowed complete deniability of the current administration, Congress, and the judicial system from all terrorism, created wars of acquisition for massive profits, and international massive illegal narcotics trafficking. Thus, complete control over America was secretly and craftively yielding to the secret shadow government. And we know now for certain that the select few controls Majestic, which is the nexus and chief controller of the alien ET matter, and recovered and back-engineered anti-gravity craft. We also know that the select few who run Majestic and the secret shadow government also run the incredibly profitable private central fiat banking that make many trillions off of their illegal, unconstitutional, pernicious usury scheme. They use this vast quantity of money to buy almost every single politician through front groups and their own wealthy cutouts they pump up with the vast fortunes made from their organized crime networks. The select few target existing organized crime networks in every nation and use them to infiltrate that society and hijack it from the top to bottom. When the select few take down any nation, they always first form alliances with the criminal underworld and provide large favors and opportunities to bring them on board. They always do most of their work through existing organized crime networks and then co-opt them. They also use their vast funds to finance, create, and deploy synthetic terrorism and false flag attacks to motivate ordinary Americans to be willing to fight the SSG's foreign wars of acquisition. The SSG provides numerous false narratives, big lies, and lots of propaganda to thus motivate the American public through its 6 controlled major mass media, CMMM moguls, who answer to one big international investment house, which is a covert front proprietary for the select few. We also know that these select few are old men are approaching death of natural causes which is knocking at their doorstep. These men have secretly run the world for many years and are hardcore Luciferian sociopathic world-class criminals and haters of humanity who consider most humans useless eaters, or as Antoni Pecci, or as former CEO of Fiat was alleged to have claimed, quote, a shit factory connected to a human brain. The select few are also the top power brokers and leaders of a secret worldwide occult network, which also uses secret high Freemasonry and other related terror satanic-based societies as cover. We also know that the SSG is deeply committed to using any means at their disposal to maintain their hold on power and to attain their long-planned intergenerational globalist NWO agenda. To attain this globalist NWO agenda that they are deeply committed to, they deploy contractors for individual acts of purchased murder of dissents and leakers, complex international geopolitical manipulations, terrorism, provoked foreign wars of acquisition for huge profits, extensive narcotics traveling, and mass murders of millions of innocent civilians. And we also know that the secret select few have used their immense power to build up a new American secret police, DHS, patterned after the Eastern German Stasis and their major action against the Israeli police using brutal Israeli anti-terror techniques against innocent civilians. To do this, they needed to attack America on 9/11/01 and then to consolidate all American intel and law enforcement agencies into one large entity, DHS, that they could easily control through one or two major cutouts, like the man they call Son of the Devil. DHS has been set up using dual citizens, sexual inverts and perverts acting as their deniable cutouts to harass, tyrannize, and transform America into Gaza II, the world's largest open-air prison camp with Americans to become the new Palestinians. There is not an ounce of humanity or decency in any of these top DHS controllers. They are liars, deceivers, and have lost their very souls and humanity. They blatantly violate their oaths of office like almost every other Beltway official. And they also are traitors and enemies within their gates, within our gates of America. The select few have for many years also captured control over most of the U.S. military and set in place procedures to gas or cluster bomb whole American cities who they deem out of control. These procedures included storage of 3 types of gases which could be sprayed by helicopter or small aircraft over inner urban areas who were rioting against the government. The first gas has been an opiate-based designed to sedate folks for several hours. The second gas was for more extreme situations and is BZ, a strong hallucinogen tested in Vietnam with very bad results for the U.S. soldiers used as guinea pigs. Allegedly, the movie Jacob's Ladder was about this. The third gas was VX, used as a 100% drop-dead-now kill agent. If all that failed, the secret plan was to cluster bomb the whole city, perhaps blaming on a rough military faction that would be taken out in mass as part of a well-planned cover-up, and there is evidence to corroborate these leaks. Admiral Thomas Moorer claimed on 60 Minutes network TV news program that aircraft were sent into Spray VX in Operation Tailwind to murder MIAs and POWs left behind, so they couldn't talk about the secret wars in Cambodia and Laos and the massive drug dealing. What he didn't mention is the part that the select few wanted to remain secret and cover up forever. Operation White Star, the use of U.S. Air Force anti-gravity craft, AGCs, for landing in Laos and Cambodia at night to pick up narcotics to international trafficking. I was once told this by a Army U.S. officer that was told to turn his back during one of these landings, but turned his head to watch, and it was not a helicopter either, but a small symmetrical flying saucer. In America and much of the West, we are now facing vast increases in staged false flag terror attacks, with the most using professional crisis actors, fake blood, and prior recovered amputees. Some real ones are mixed in, but the vast majority are synthetic virtual stunts and live shooter exercises dramatized to a virtual incident. All this staged terror serves two main purposes: to create mass fear in the American group's subconscious mind in order to motivate folks to support foreign wars of aggression for the Israeli-American terror machine, run by the select few, and to serve as an excuse and cover to seize the guns of the American law-abiding citizen. All this crap about using the no-fly list as a standard reason to deny any gun ownership for anyone on this list is pure shit. Why? Because insiders claim that about 38% of the folks on the no-fly list and every other terror watch list are there in error. By the way, this push to take guns away from the American law-abiding citizens will end in failure for the select few, who may have lost their judgment due to old age and too much money and power. They ought to realize that Americans will never give up their guns no matter what new laws are passed or protest edicts are signed. Americans will never allow their guns to be taken, and any serious attempt will automatically lead to a new and full-scale American Civil War with a major split in the U.S. police, military, and intel. This itself will produce an instant coup d'etat. The results of any such civil war will become devastating to the select few and their cutouts and puppet masters, like the ones that were dumb enough to plot Lee Wanta's assassination on his phone recorder, not understanding that it wouldn't disconnect from a conference call. The FBI won't prosecute these self-proclaimed puppet masters because they are claiming dementia. Lee Wanta is doing fine, and these scumbags have been rejected by everyone who is part of the SSG. Nobody inside the Beltway wants to admit they even know them anymore and will have nothing to do with them. And besides, all these terror attacks are either entrapment ops by the FBI, which supplies all weapons and bombs to mentally retarded or mentally ill patsies. These terror operations use either crises actors and trapped patsies or mind-controlled MK-Ultra type patsies and dupes, and they are all run by either the FBI, the CIA, DHS, or the Mossad, and sometimes all working together in coordinated roles. What few Americans realize is that there are numerous reciprocal intel agreements in place that allow foreign intel to operate in each other's nations, and even can obtain stand-downs from large urban police or DHS in order to commit numerous crimes and rackets, as well as terminations. If these were real terror operations, obviously the terrorists would seek out the American leaders and elected officials, and certainly the select few, to assassinate when they appeared in public. The only one that mass murders the innocent are the paid and mind-controlled Gladio-style operatives employed by the Mossad, the CIA, MI6, Saudi Intel, Turkish Intel, and NATO, and its main controller, the DVD, aka Nazi Left Behind Army. And we know that if the so-called war on terror was real, all American borders would have been 100% sealed by using all means necessary, including the American military and National Guards, and all foreign immigration would be completely suspended until there was no threat anymore. This alone proves it a big lie and con job on the American people. Taking away guns from honest law-abiding individuals is just an excuse to advance the select few's globalist NWO agenda, which cannot ever be successful unless Americans and the whole world are disarmed. If the war on terror was real and not phony, all honest law-abiding Americans, including women, would be encouraged to get proper training, buy and carry concealed handguns. Since the USG and the current administration is pushing for complete disarmament, we know they are owned by the select few and part of the globalist NWO criminal conspiracy and serve as its puppets. Slaying the national security beast is not going to be easy, but it becomes more likely every day. Obviously, if the American people were soulless creatures of the night like the select few, once they were fully informed, they would assassinate every single one of these monsters who walk among us as they occasionally appear in public. But we are not like them, and other means will have to be used unless there is a complete coup d'etat. The solution to this serious problem that is now directly threatening the very continued existence of America and the whole world must be resolved with a broad-based societal mass awakening. This means folks must become aware of the constant fake news of the CMMM, which hypnotizes them into mind-controlled stupor and spell. Inside experts claim that when approximately 12% of the American people wake up from their SSG-induced stupor, they will set off an instant grand awakening of the American masses, 100 monkey effect, and the whole twisted system of the select few will be taken down by public and private onslaughts at every level imaginable. But that alone will not be enough. We must have the help of top insiders to avoid a very high casualty figure for the average American, even though they will win this battle in the final analysis no matter what. This mass populist response is what brought down the Soviet Union and also stopped the assassination of East Berliners and East Germans trying to cross the Iron Curtain. One day the East German border guard just stopped shooting border crossers, refusing to do so. Many took off their uniform shirts and simply walked away. The East Stasi headquarters was sacked, and many secret files were thrown into the street. Some Stasi officers were caught and literally torn limb from limb by an angry crowd. It is this spontaneously emerging growing populism that will bring down the select few and their whole evil system. Lee Wanta had entered into sensitive negotiations with Gorbachev on behalf of President Ronald Reagan and was able to successfully negotiate a mutual agreement to avoid tampering with nations near each other's borders forever, and to work together on trade and business rather than war. This ended the Cold War and took down the Iron Curtain. Anyone who want a more complete report on this can acquire Lee Wanta's excellent book, Wanta White Hat Black Swan. Wanta White Hat Black Swan. So we know that help from other nations such as Russia will probably be necessary for Americans to free themselves from the select few parasites. The American people must sidestep the CMMM and become aware of the globalist NWO agenda and the select few's infiltration and hijacking of majesty, and they're using it to solidify their positions and power as the select few. At some point it will be necessary for insiders in majority and the SSG and the High Command of the U.S. military and intel to refuse to accept all these illegal, unconstitutional orders. If everyone refuses to follow these illegal, inhuman orders of the select few and their cutouts, and many Americans refuse to give consent to the select few and their rackets, the whole system will collapse. What if American soldiers en masse refuse these illegal, unconstitutional orders to go into these illegal, unconstitutional, unprovoked, undeclared wars of aggression? That is what it will take, and it is probably coming soon. And the recent attempts of the select few to use their engineered synthetic terror to draw us into a war in Iraq in order to destroy Syria and then Iran on behalf of Israel is now their last grasp. If that fails, if they fail to go door to door, and if they fail to go door to door and get American guns, they are doomed to complete failure and disassembling. And of course we know that the private fiat Federal Reserve System nears complete collapse due to the coming worldwide abandonment of the US petrodollar and numerous independent trade pacts. These trade pacts have arisen will no longer use the US petrodollar as their trade medium of exchange or as the world's reserve currency. This itself is likely to break the select few's back and bring tremendous pressures for their exposure and displacement at every level. And don't forget that the recent huge drop in crude oil prices are going to bring down the massive oil derivative scam, which is owned by some of the big Wall Street banks. As this implodes, they will likely collapse financially very quickly. What the American people do not want is the complete engineered destruction of America or the complete destruction of their military and intel or police. What most want is a restoration of constitutional government with an excision of the foreign infiltrators from the Khazarian Mafia, who also infiltrated and hijacked Majesty and used it to form an incredibly powerful and unimaginably evil super-fascist secret shadow government SSG, also known as the now privatized military-industrial complex. Once the American masses find out that these secret few are the top policy makers who truly call all the shots and are also the top of the majestic pyramid and the secret shadow government SSG. Once Americans realize en masse that everything they do is completely illegal, unconstitutional, and constitutes the greatest RICO crimes ever committed in America, all designed to attain their age-old globalist NWO agenda, mass populist resistance will emerge throughout the American society at every level, and this select few will be removed from their perch of power. At that time, it is likely the younger 70% of Majestic will redetermine policy, reinstitute the U.S. Constitution, Bill of Rights, rule of law, new constitution, new constitutional no-interest-bearing money in place of the private FRS debt note fraud, and will rout out all the traitors that fill Congress, the administration, the alphabets, the U.S. military, and the judiciary. Once the select few are displaced, the Deep Black Murder Incorporated machine will be dismantled, and free energy, anti-gravity, cold plasma fusion, telomere lengthening, and gene restoration, and some remarkable cures and preventions for disease, including serious advances in nutrition, will be shared with the public. Instead of the American people and the world feeling beat down and fighting for their very day-to-day survivals, people everywhere will be given hope and can all work together to build an exciting future for all. There is one more very important little-known tool that can be used to slay the national security beast. This is the spontaneously emergent power of the American group mind, known by some as psi power, commonly known as populism. Any populism scares the heck out of the select few, and that is why they spend billions every year mind-controlling the masses with their news cartel, the Controlled Major Mass Media, CMMM. There have been experiments where group imaging and group prayer to God Almighty actually altered the weather. The most psi power is when Americans learn to spontaneously and repeatedly throughout the day imagine the select few's total fall and create images in their minds that visualize and fantasize them being brought to judgment in a suitable court of law, military, national, or international. This can be any kind of imaging, but some of the most effective in experiments has been shown to be group prayer to God Almighty, or group imaging spontaneously emerging among tens, hundreds, thousands, or even millions, all at once. If any time concerns or knowledge about the evil of the select few drifts into their minds, their fall of the select few and their whole evil system and agenda would be sped up significantly. Want to aid their demise? Then promote any kind of imaging possible, including groupthink and prayer to God Almighty among your friends and family who do so.